Hey everybody, welcome once again to the Poindexter Lounge. My name is Enosh, aka Enosh Fett, and what you're about to see is a conversation that started from a live stream that we had last week about Star Wars: The Clone Wars, where we did a watch party, and out of it came an interesting conversation about Superman. Now, if there's two things that I love, it's of course Star Wars, but Superman is a huge part of my life. My son's middle name is Jor-El. As you can tell here in my office, I've got quite a bit of things Superman related. And so this conversation was very interesting. And we talked a lot about the character of Superman. We talked a lot about some of the actors who played Superman. And I wanted to share this video with you just as its own video because it wasn't planned. It was something that just kind of materialized. I talk a little bit about what Superman means to me. Some of our viewers talk about in the chat room, and we read those comments about what Superman means to them and about the character in general. So I hope that you enjoy this conversation about Superman. Yeah, Superman was my jam. Star Wars was my jam.
Still is. It's the one that you can quote no matter what it is on TV.
Yeah, Star Wars was my jam. Superman was my jam. Actually, I like Superman 2 better than Superman the movie. And just because it was my favorite movie, I loved
Bruce
General Zod.
Says, of course I did.
Oh yeah, I was going to say it. But no, the way she read that, I thought maybe.
Well, no, what it says is I just watched the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. They were overshadowed by Star Wars at the time. That's how it was worded.
Okay. So it's your fault, Bruce. But no, that was my jam back then because like I loved General Zod. I loved that confrontation, and I'm sorry. I know that there's this big.
Caleb said Rambo Last Blood was super controversial apparently, and Bruce said Superman 3 was not very good.
So
Fact.
now hold on. So here's the thing. There's this big thing with Superman 2 because Richard Donner got fired from making Superman 2 because he filmed Superman 1 and 2 back to back, right? Because they were going to do like 10 movies. They had a plan for doing like all these, like, you know, just doing a big serial of movies.
Bruce says that's it. I'm telling her mom.
But here's the thing. So they filmed Superman 1 and 2 back to back. The original ending to Superman 1 was what was the ending to Superman 2.
Darth said 3 is better than 4. Though.
I'm sorry. Which one was it? No, okay. The ending to Superman 1 that actually got in there where he spins the world back around and everything.
To try to...
To undo everything was actually going to be the ending to Superman 2.
Oh, okay.
But they had it done, and they didn't have enough money to get both movies made and enough time to get both movies made for the first one to premiere. So they stopped working on part 2.
Mark says, so this is Planet Houston?
Yes. Oh, it's great stuff right there. So they stopped working on Superman 2, finished Superman 1, and then went back to work on Superman 2. Well, when they did, Richard Donner had issues. He had a falling out with Eli and Alexander Salkind, who were the producers. And so they fired him, and they hired Richard Lester, who had done more comedies and stuff like that. Now, for years, there was talk of, wouldn't it be great if Richard Donner was able to go back and finish his version of Superman 2? And then a few years ago, what they did was, I guess it was like one of his producers. It wasn't Richard Donner himself, but one of the producers was able to get some of the test footage. Now that's how crazy this is. It's really meta. But they got some of the test footage, like even some of the casting footage between Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder. So it's not actually the movie. It's just like they do this whole scene that was from that was not shot for the movie, but it was part of their casting scene from Niagara Falls. So they're in their scene at Niagara Falls, but where it would have been in the script, it automatically goes to this other thing.
I've been to that area.
And it's a totally different place, different room. It's supposed to be the same room, but obviously it's not in the movie, and they didn't actually shoot it for the movie. So it's this whole scene where she shoots him instead of him falling into the fire or whatever or something. Like
my favorite scene from that movie.
That's how she finds out that he's Superman in the Richard Donner version, is she shoots him, which I really don't like because it means that Lois Lane was willing to commit murder to prove that and kill Clark Kent to prove that Clark Kent was Superman. I don't like that, and I know it's controversial now because it's weird, and it's weird to me.
Caleb said Superman 1 and 2 director's cuts have the same ending.
Yes, But see, what's weird about that to me is there's all these people now who say that the Richard Donner version of Superman 2 is better than Superman 2, the original one, which was half Donner, half Richard Lester. And I understand that. I think it really comes from a place of loyalty to Richard Donner. I mean, Richard Donner gave us Superman the movie. He did a phenomenal job, and I respect him for that. But honestly, I like the theatrical, the regular version of Superman 2 so much better. It has the moments where like he falls into the fire and his hand goes into the fire and she's like, "Oh, are you okay?" And he's like, "No, no, no."
And then you can see him just be like,
and he's just like, I love that moment. He's just like that, and he gets mad because it's like, well, why'd you do that?
But you could see him go from that like timid, to like.
It's one of the best scenes.
Change.
That right there is one of the best scenes of the Niagara Falls scene when he admits to her that he is Superman, because he goes from being slouched over and stuff. He doesn't have the glasses on, and then he stands straight up, and he had the glasses on, but he stands straight up and takes the glasses off and he folds them, and it's like you see the presence that Christopher Reeve had, and it's become like very unpopular. I'm part of some Superman groups even, and it's become very unpopular to say that you like the original theatrical, or not even, because I think that it's been cut up, because it was Superman 2 was also cut up for TV, and there was extra scenes added for that even. Yeah. But I love Superman 2, and Superman 3, I'll be honest with you, I actually like Superman 3. Superman 3, even as funny as it is, and though it's got Richard Pryor and it's weird and it's wonky or whatever, Superman 3 has the best flying scenes out of the entire series. Like, they actually spent money on that movie, and the landing scenes and the takeoff scenes are amazing. And Superman 4 we just don't like to talk about. But Superman 4 even has its moments that are really good, and I really like Superman 4 too. But unfortunately, Superman 4, half of its budget went to make Masters of the Universe, because Canon Films took it over, and when Canon Films took it over, they low budgeted that movie like crazy, and that's why you have like the green looking Superman suit where it looks like he's flat, because they just have a flat projection of Christopher Reeve flying towards the screen. It looks absolutely horrible. But there's a director's cut somewhere of Superman 4. This is something not everybody knows. There's a director's cut of Superman 4 that is somewhere out there that actually has 2 nuclear men in it. It has a first one that's like a crazy looking guy who got cut from the movie, where they fight in downtown Metropolis, very much like Superman 2. And apparently that is like amazing from what people have talked about. There's pictures of it. You can find them on the internet. There's pictures of it. People have made videos about it here on YouTube. There's all kinds of stuff about it, but we've never ever seen it. And then the second nuclear man comes and takes Superman out. But yeah, it's interesting. Those movies, even the not so good ones, have a special place in my heart.
Strange how 2 movies with Superman get a director change halfway through Superman 2 than Justice League.
Yes.
Caleb says, I love theatrical cut of Superman 2, but I love the 3-hour TV edit of Superman 1.
There's like 5 different cuts of Superman 1 now.
Mark says, great physical acting, talking about Christopher Reeve.
Mm-hmm.
Mark says, I liked 3 too. I watched it in the theater 5 times in a row. For some reason, I was a kid.
The scene where he splits off and fights himself was phenomenal. And the thing is, there's all kinds of stuff in Superman 3 that you can see where they were trying to go. It was trying to be about Brainiac, with the supercomputer and everything, but they didn't call it Brainiac for some reason. It would have been so much better if they would have just used that as the character, but they didn't. And then when he splits up, some of the best stuff. I mean, obviously that meme has been around for the last few years of Superman sitting at the bar, but that I love Richard Pryor when he can't find the secret ingredient in kryptonite, and he looks at his pack of cigarettes and it says tar, and he goes, I don't know. He types it in tar and he goes, heck, smoke it if we have to. I just picture him like smoking up a bowl of fake kryptonite, But I can quote that movie. I can quote all 4 of those movies. I mean, just as much as I can Star Wars. The scenes where Richard Pryor goes into town dressed in the cowboy stuff, and he has the thing, he goes to see Brad, and it's full of alcohol, and they
That's
get
how I am
drunk.
with Mel Brooks movies.
And they get drunk. I mean, that is awesome. That's a funny scene because then he has to put the two key codes in, and they're far apart, and they got to go in at the same time. He's like, at the same time, and he puts them. He rigs up Brad to do it at the same time with a rope with his yo-yo that he had, and
Okay, keep going, Mark.
Superman goes after that blonde, and then I just love the stupid stuff in that movie. I'm sorry, I just love that movie because Superman like does the stupid stuff like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. When he's bad Superman, he goes and makes it straight, and so the little guy who sells clay versions of the Leaning Tower of Pisa like gets all mad at him, and Superman's going away. He's from Italy, and he's like, "Ah, it's Superman!" And Superman comes back after he turns good again, and like, cause he's got to undo what happened. Superman comes back and makes it crooked again, and by this time the guy has made new statues that are straight, and he just looks at Superman flying off like, "You jerk!" And he takes a broom and hits the stand and starts breaking them all because he's just like, he can't win. That's a great movie. It's funny. I love it. That's a funny movie, and it's Superman. It's good. Plus Annette O'Toole as Lana Lang.
Bruce says, all I'm saying is number 3 needed Lex Luthor.
Yeah,
Mark
that
said,
should have been Lex
that would have
Luthor.
helped. Caleb says, as bad as Superman 4 was, Superman addressing the UN is my favorite speech of all time.
That's great. Yes, I agree.
Mark said Superman 4 or Supergirl movie. Darth Tasty says,
Who said about Supergirl movie?
Mark,
yeah, I'm with. So
There's still
Supergirl.
a lot more to go.
Okay, sorry.
You keep
Supergirl.
talking.
Well, we're talking about stuff. It's all right. Supergirl is a hard watch. I like Supergirl in theory. I love Helen Slater. She looks great as Supergirl. I mean, that costume is straight out of the comics. It looks phenomenal. But the movie is really slow. It's really hard to watch. But I own it, and I love it.
Darth said, I don't think I've seen 4 since the 80s.
Oh, dude.
Mark says,
Let's do a watch party of all the Superman
Mark
movies.
says, which is better? Meaning Superman or Supergirl. You already answered that.
I would say
says-
Superman 4 is better than Supergirl.
Bruce says, did anyone
As a
else
movie.
get annoyed with the opening credits on Superman 1, 2, and 3? Bruce said...
The opening credits?
Yep.
In 1, 2, and 3?
Yep.
No, Bruce, Superman 3 opens up a little different because there's like there's a series of events that happen that like all these weird things happen, these like accidents that all lead from one thing to the next. I always thought that was actually kind of cool because it showed like all these like one thing after another happens and it all, corresponds then to Superman having to fly out and save the guy in his car who runs over the fire hydrant and his car starts filling up with water and he kind of rips
Bruce
the
says
top
the
off.
opening credits took way too long.
It was a long opening credit scene. But, I thought it paid off in the end because Christopher Reeve looked great when he flies across the street on there when he comes out of the photo booth. I think that's a great scene, too, because he's in the photo booth and the little kid puts the money in and it takes pictures of him by accident turning from Clark Kent into Superman. And he goes back and he looks at the pictures and he sees the ones that have been changing until the last one where it's just him as Superman. He rips it off and gives that one to the little girl. And then, takes off because the wire work on that movie was phenomenal. And he takes off, flies over, lands on top of the car. Christopher Reeve looked great. The costume was great in that one. The costume in the first 3 were really, really good. Was really, really good. The 4th one was a little bit iffy. The colors were weird and stuff. I've seen that costume in person actually at a traveling thing, and that costume just looks a little off. But I love how he landed up there. His physique was amazing. All that stuff was great. What about the scene where he sneezes after knocking over the ashtray and the bowling ball shatters all of the all of the pins at the bowling alley? Like nobody would know he's Superman after that.
Mark says the reference to that splitting apart and fighting himself in Crisis was awesome.
Yes.
Bruce says when he splits, it's the best scene in the movie. I'll give you that. Mark says time to go. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for joining us tonight, man.
I think he's already been gone since then. Caleb says people don't think Richard Pryor was funny in that movie, but he was hilarious.
I think so too. I think Richard Pryor did a really good job in that movie.
Darth said Richard Pryor says an awesome actor and comedian. Bruce says the Leaning Tower thing was great. I love when he fell off the building with skis.
That's one of those, that's one of those, like, that could be like the stupidest thing ever. Like, that nobody would survive that. But the way that they play it off is phenomenal. And Superman with the best comeback after, because when he's bad, he ends up sleeping with the blonde girl. And, in there. And then when he turns good again, he sees him and she goes, "Hi, sweetie." And he's like, "I don't know you, miss." It's like, oh, ouch.
Caleb says, would said watch party include Superman Returns? That's my favorite Superman movie after Superman 1.
Who said that?
Caleb.
Superman Returns is your favorite Superman movie?
You had this talk with him after we met.
That's right.
Brandon.
That's right.
'Cause you
We could
guys
do
got
that.
into
I don't have a problem with that. You know what? Superman Returns has become to me just it doesn't have to be my favorite Superman movie,
but
I
love.
love.
You don't mind it now after meeting him.
I
too.
don't mind it as much after meeting him now and hearing his take on Superman. It's not my favorite Superman movie, but I appreciate it a whole lot more now. I think that it had issues. I think that it has timing issues. I think that Brandon Routh doesn't talk enough.
But he also rectified all that by doing what he did in Crisis. So
Yeah. I mean, that's phenomenal. So I think that he should have had more lines, but that's not his fault. I think he could have done a whole lot more. And I'm not big on the costume, but
Bruce was saying the opening credits took way too long, and then after that he says, I was like, show me the movie.
The movie's done. They're like, movie's done, Bruce. There's the credits. Credits are done.
Bruce
Superman.
has a question.
That'd be funny. Just the credits, and then Superman flies out into space, winks, and it's done.
Bruce
And he
has
actually
a
looks at you and
question,
goes,
but
"Bye,
I'm
Bruce."
going to read a couple of them because if you go, then there's going to be a lot more again.
Okay.
So I'll come back to that question in just a second. Caleb says the kid he gave the photo to was a little boy, and that little boy was in fact the child actor who played baby Kal-El in Superman 1. Darth Tasty says, what about the Nick Cage Tim Burton costume, LOL. Bruce says, sneezing a little too much. Bruce says, best line in the first movie, bad vibrations. Caleb
Yes.
says it's my second favorite after Superman 1. I loved how the whole movie was just a love letter to Christopher Reeve's Superman, talking about Superman Returns.
Oh yeah.
But Bruce's question says, here's a good question, do you believe in the Superman curse?
The Superman curse. Man, I think I'm going to have to turn this video into its own Superman-related
Which
thing.
is funny because it's
Clone Wars. So I'll have to download this and separate it out because I think this is a great discussion. The Superman curse is an interesting thing. I think for a while I don't believe in the, a curse as it is. I think it is very interesting that people who played Superman have suffered the way that they have. But I look at Dean Cain. If you take away the fact that people all of a sudden don't like his political leanings, Dean Cain, I know a lot of people who've said that Dean Cain is a jerk. Dean Cain was one of the nicest people.
We also assumed he was going to be when we met him, and then when we met him, we were like, whoa.
Yeah, when I met
Super
Dean Cain,
cool.
I thought that he was going to be just like,
Because it's because of who he plays on TV and stuff. We just assumed.
And that's how I thought. But you know what? When we met Dean, Dean was one of the most cordial, sweetest people. When we met him at Comic-Con, and they had a sign up that said that you could only have 3 people in your picture with him. And it was like, what, $45? $45 to get a picture with him. And so I was excited because he was a Superman. He was the first Superman that I ever met, was Dean Cain. And so I was super excited. No pun intended. Or pun intended, maybe. I was super excited. And so we wait and stuff. And while we're waiting there, the boys, they didn't watch that show. That's like our next show once we finish Smallville with the boys. We're going to go back and watch that with them. But they had never watched the show, so they didn't have any connection to Dean Cain. And the boys looked at
the dad on Supergirl at the time when we met him too.
Yeah. So he turns around to me, or well, the boys turn around to me and said, Dad, Tiff, it's okay. You guys just get a picture with him. We don't have to get it because the lady said that if we wanted to get a picture with the whole family, that we'd have to of five, that we'd have to pay $90. So pay the $45 twice. And I was like, I'm not paying $90 for a selfie picture with Dean Cain. You know, I wouldn't do that anyway. So we said okay, and the boys said that's all right, guys. You just get the picture taken. He was the Superman you guys watched. So we said okay. So we got up there. We started talking. It was right before Batman vs Superman came out. So Logan was wearing a Batman jersey. He starts joking with Logan right off the bat about Batman v Superman, about how they got to fight.
Yeah.
And then he finds out that Landon's middle name is Jor-El, and he loved that. And he's like, you're my dad, and I got to fight you. And then, and then he asked what Isaac's name was and stuff. And when it was just Isaac, he was just like, well, I don't know. You're just cool. You can be you can be my buddy. And then he just talked to the boys.
Together.
They had his complete attention. I thought it was so cool. And so that was a great experience for them because that was the first time they'd ever even known anything about Dean Cain. They'd seen pictures of him and stuff, but that was it. And so then
had we seen him in Smallville at that point?
Oh yeah, that was long after. No, because we hadn't even started watching Smallville. That was long before. That was 2 years. Oh, that's
right, because they were young.
Like a year before
they were young
met
there.
him. Yeah. So he started talking to me. I told him my love for the character of Superman, how much it meant to me, and all those things, and how Superman to me was like kind of like a father figure growing up because I didn't have my dad growing up, and so I gravitated towards Superman because the Christopher Reeve portrayal of Superman and just Superman in general always seemed to me to be what a man should be. Not that he had superpowers. It wasn't that he could fly. It wasn't all those things. I mean, obviously I was a kid and I loved all those things, aspects of it. But really it was just that he always did the right thing and he always cared for the people that he loved. And that's how I always kind of looked at what a man should be. And that's why the character of Superman is so important to me. Because I didn't have my dad. And so anyways, I told him that. He loved that. And that just really meant a lot to him, And so he comes out and he goes, okay, so are we taking a picture, guys? And we said, yeah. And so Tiffany and I went back behind the thing to take our picture with him. And he actually stopped. And he says, well, wait a second. Isn't everybody going to get in the picture? Because now he had talked to the boys. He had connected with the boys, and he connected with us. And he goes, well, hey, isn't everybody going to get in the picture? And I said, well, we'd love to. But the lady said that we couldn't, and said she was going to charge us double for the whole family because only 3 people could be in the picture. Dean Cain said, hold on just 1 second. He left us. He went over to that lady and he said, don't you ever do that again. Don't you ever do that again. When families come up and things like this, you let them take their picture. As many of them as needed. And
it was almost like out of spite for her.
Yeah, and he came back over and we
got like 20 pictures.
We got tons of pictures. He did poses. I've got a Superman tattoo here on my arm just like he had in the promo photos, for Lois and Clark. And so he had me lift my arm and do the pose and stuff, and he was doing the pose. And he did funny pictures with us. Like, it wasn't even just like a normal,
you and him were glaring at each other.
Like, just a snare, take a picture. Like, he was doing funny shots with us and serious shots and all kinds of different poses. And I just got to say, that's just...
So far, every Superman we've met has been cool like that because we got to talk and joke with Tom Welling. We got to sit and talk and get a video from
Brandon Routh. Brandon Routh was awesome, too.
Superman have been pretty cool. I don't want to open a can of worms with that one. Darth Tasty said, what about the Nick Cage Tim Burton costume? LOL.
Boy.
No.
I'm kind of glad that we I'll just say that I'm glad that we did not get that.
Bruce says George Reeves, Christopher Reeve, Dean Cain, hemorrhoids.
But let me finish my thing. So Dean Cain has been fine. Dean Cain. Did we say hemorrhoids? That's funny. Henry Cavill, knock on wood, seems to be doing okay. Nick Cage is still Nick Cage.
Why is he not in that movie?
Why am I not in that movie? I gotta save the Declaration of Independence. They're making another one of those, by the way.
Bruce says my dog is named Buster from Superman 3.
Nice. Very nice. The pate scene. where he gets,
Alan
that
just
is like
says-
so Christopher Reeve right there. That is so awesome because he sits there and he's like, pate. And he's like eating, and Annette O'Toole plays a Lana Lang that is like unlike any other Lana Lang. She's just kind of ditzy and but like she's focused when she needs to be focused, but then like she's doing so many things that her mind's in another place. And she's like, she's talking all serious, and she goes, she's looking the other way. She's like, pate. She's like, I didn't make any pate. She looks, oh, Clark, it's the dog food. And he's like, oh, no. And he eats it anyway. Oh, it's great.
Alan just said, hey, he showed up.
What's up, Alan? We're supposed to be talking about Star Wars here, but we got on this whole Superman thing. It's pretty awesome.
Bruce said Superman had true morals that is lacking in today's society.
For sure.
Alan said, nice one to what you were joking about. And then Bruce Jennings said, dog food.
Dog food, yes.
He got up.
That was great. That was a great scene. There were so many great, memorable scenes in Superman 3, to be honest with you. But, you know, there's so many
Alan
great...
says, how you both doing?
We're doing good. How you doing, Alan? How you doing? Like Superman 2.
Bruce said, I would have eaten it too just to keep my pride.
In the director's cut of Superman 2, the Richard Donner version of Superman 2, they take away the best line out of the whole stinking movie. The where Superman had lost his powers and he comes back, and in that great scene where he's hanging out outside the window and he talks to General Zod. In the regular movie, it's a callback to the guy who he met in the diner who beats him up as Clark Kent and everything, because he says, I think, you know, would you care to step outside? And Clark can't defend himself anymore because Clark doesn't have his powers and he's not used to having to deal with that. And the guy, you know, like wipes the mat with him, right? And Superman flies up, stands right there, puts his hands like this, folds his arms, and says, General, would you care to step outside? That's the best line of that movie. And then, like, I can't even remember. I just saw it the other day. It was on something where in the Richard Donner version, like, he flies up and says something like, I can't even remember what he said. He says something silly, and it just doesn't sound right. It's just like, it's got to be, General, would you care to step outside? That's the best line. It's just so awesome. Oh, Christopher Reeve was the man. Hey guys, if you made it this far in the video, you are awesome. Thank you guys so much for your support. Please smash that like button and of course subscribe, and also hit that notifications bell so that you are aware when we put out new videos, which is like all the time. Thanks for being a part of the Poindexter Lounge, and we'll see you next time.